Perfect.
Hello and good morning, everyone. We are Guneet, Puri, that's me, and Anusha Subramanian, and we are the proprietors or founding partners of an adventure travel company called Bohemian Adventures. We are a woman-run mountaineering adventure sport company, and our basic expertise is in the field of mountaineering, and what we generally conduct are land-based activities. How we started, what happened to us is a short video that will play and what we do. That's a basic introduction to us, and then we look forward to taking the conversation on from there. It's been an interesting journey, so here goes. Sorry, I think we are experiencing some sort of a technical glitch. We'll come right back to you guys. In the meanwhile, Anu, you want to say good morning? You're mute.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anusha, and as Guneet explained, we're the Bohemian Girls, and we're looking forward to actually wanting you all to watch this video and then have your questions, and we could have a little chat on what we actually do. I don't want to reveal everything right now without they having seen the video actually.
Yeah, I know.
June for me was a day that could have gone this way or that. I'd gone for an expedition and we were at summit camp at 5,600 meters, just 400 meters short of the summit. 16th was supposed to be the day that we were supposed to stand on top of that mountain, Helu. We spent all night just digging our tents out, making tea. We were in an area where it was a very big possibility that an avalanche would come on us. We were trying to get to a summit camp, but why we were able to survive it, I think of the 11 of us, the 8 of us who went to summit camp, none of us can really say.
After her safe return to the nearest town of Uttarkashi, Guneet did not go home. Instead, she decided to stay back and volunteer for relief work. Anusha, her batchmate from NIM, Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, flew down from Mumbai and joined Guneet in the relief work.
At that point in time, believe me, we had not even planned what are we going to do. All we knew is we have a skill, kuch na kuch kar hi lenge hum log.
We started working. First couple of days, we volunteered with Red Cross. By the time the Sindhi ma'am was here, we worked with the Funili crew, Nahapis.
once we finished the relief mission and everything, and we sat and thought over, and we said, we need to do something more.
Guneet and Anusha started Submitting for Hope, an organization to conduct expeditions in the Uttarakhand region to begin with. The idea was to create employment, even if at a small scale, and to plow back any extra money generated through funds for local development.
So we put together our expedition. We went up. It was successful. We came down. We were in high spirits.
I'd raised about 4.5 lakhs, and I was left with almost about 2 lakhs.
They were still undecided on what exactly to do with this money when they had a meeting with Colonel Kotial, principal of Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, the place from where both Anusha and Guneet had done their mountaineering courses.
So he said, all right, if you're doing all this, why haven't you thought anything about Mamta?
Mamta was a local village girl who had done her advanced mountaineering course along with Anusha and Guneet few years ago. On seeing her potential during that course, Anusha had sponsored her next level of course called the Method of Instruction course.
Ever since she did a Method of Instruction course, she's been getting a lot of work. Immediately after that, she's worked with the Tata Adventure Foundation. She's worked with INMI, an organization in Delhi, which works with a lot of kids, and they conduct adventure camp for kids.
16th June 2013. The same day that Guneet was trying to get out of her summit camp, risking avalanches, Mamta was out in the mountains guiding one such adventure camp of it.
पूरे पेड़ पत्थर एक साथ जा रहे थे, ऐसा लग रहा था कि अब ये तुरंत हमें भी भाग ले जाएगा। तो डर अपने नहीं था, डर था उन बच्चों का जो 15-16 साल के बच्चे थे, जो 40 बच्चे थे हमारे पास। उनको फिर हमने ऐसे किया कि इनको पहले एक पैदल का रास्ता है उधर से लेके आए मेन रोड पे, और फिर हमने उनके जब तक गाड़ियां आ रही थी तब तक हमने उनके बैग दिला दिए, बच्चों को सेफ जगह पे पहुंचाया।
After that, Mamta had to return home to be with her bhabhi who was pregnant. She delivered in the next 2 days. But Mamta wanted to go out there and use her skills in rescuing the thousands who were stranded in that region.
तो मुझे ना अजीब सा लग रहा था वहाँ हॉस्पिटल में बैठ के। मैंने कहा यार मतलब क्या फ़ायदा है हमारा कोर्स करके, मतलब हम अगर किसी को कुछ नहीं दे सकते, जो जितनी मेरे से हेल्प हो सकती है मैं वो तो कर सकती हूँ। मैंने फर्स्ट बार अपने घर में झूठ बोला, मैं कभी झूठ नहीं बोलती, कभी भी मैं किसी से झूठ नहीं बोली। मैं अपने भाई को बोला कि एनआईएम का फ़ोन आ रहा है एनआईएम से, और उन्होंने बोला कि आपको मनेरी इधर आना है। मैं झूठ बोल रही थी कि एनआईएम के जा रखे, मुझे पता भी नहीं था कि एनआईएम के लोग जा रखे। तो एक कोई और दीदी बैठी हुई थी कजिन रिश्तेदार, उन्होंने कहा कि लड़कियों को जाना अलाउ नहीं है। मैंने कहा कहाँ पे लिखा हुआ कि लड़कियों को जाना अलाउ नहीं है? मैंने कहा वो बेवकूफ है एनआईएम के जो ऊपर बैठे। नाल्ड गांव है, उस गांव में पैदल पहुंचाया भाभी को, कम से कम होगा 8-9 किलोमीटर पैदल पड़ गया। तो बच्चे के साथ उनको उनके मायके में छोड़ा। मैं जब निकली वहां से तो सडनली मुझे एनआईएम के सरदार सर मिल गए। मैंने उनसे बोला, मैंने कहा सर मैं खाना भी अगर नहीं दोगे आप तो चलेगा, दिन में मैं काम करूंगी। फिर तो हम मतलब साथ हो गया था मेरा। फिर हम लोगों ने लोगों को कोशिश की सेफ पहुंचाने की, सेफ जगह। जब हम फॉरनर को निकाल के आए, मैंने उनको कहीं पे मैं अपना हाथ दे रही थी पैर को रखने के लिए, कहीं पे अपना मैं घुटना दे रही थी कि यहाँ पे पैर रखो, कहीं से उनको पीठी में उठा रही थी। तो जब मैं मनेरी हेलीपैड में आए तो उस फॉरनर ने अटैची खोली और पैसे ऐसे निकाले कि आप मतलब इनाम के तौर पे या टिप के ना कि आपके लिए आपने हमें सेफ पहुंचा दिया। तो मुझे ना इतना डर लगा कि ये कैसे दे रही मुझे पैसे। मैंने कहा मैं पैसे लेने आ रही आपके पास, और नहीं लिया मैंने ना, मतलब अजीब सा लगा मुझे अंदर से कि क्या सोच रही है मुझे, मैं पैसे के लिए थोड़ी नहीं आ रही यहाँ पे ना। मैंने कहा आपका पैसा अगर आप 4 दिन भूखे रहे वहाँ पे, आपके पैसे काम आए कि नहीं? मैंने कहा तो फिर मैंने कहा मुझे नहीं चाहिए आपके पैसे।
Over the next several weeks, Mamta rescued dozens of people and actively participated in the relief work for free. She also worked alongside Guneet and Anusha, but there's something that she never told anyone.
That girl, through all this, had not once mentioned that this disaster had affected her as much as it had affected everybody else. All the people we were trying to help, all the people she was helping.
The floods had washed away Mamta's house. Her house was gone.
You know how people talk and they say, you know, iska bhi, uska bhi, and this and that. So the Gaonwalas told somebody who told an instructor at NIM. And that is how Colonel Kotial came to know about it, and he told us about it. This is 4 months after the disaster.
Guneet and Anusha put in the 2 lakh rupees to start building a new house for Mamta. NIM supported them. They had to raise a lot more money to complete the house, and they did.
मैंने सोचा था कि मैं एक लकड़ी काट के बलियां काट के एक छोटा सा छत बनाऊंगी, ऊपर से तिरपाल डाल दूंगी, घास वास डाल के। टेंशन हो जाता रात को कि भगवान अगला दिन कैसे रहेगा करके। यही होता था कि भगवान अब मैं बना पाऊंगी घर की नहीं बना पाऊंगी। मुझे ये भी नहीं था पता कि आज ये दिन भी आएगा, मतलब कि हमें लोग आ रहे हैं पूछने के लिए कि आपने कैसा काम किया। अपने स्व इच्छा से कर रहे। शायद मुझे अगर ये पता होता कि कोई मेरा नाम लेगा आगे तो शायद नहीं हो पाता, इतना अच्छा काम नहीं होता, बिल्कुल नहीं होता।
Over the years, our journey has taken us across glaciers, meadows, mountains, hills and plains, sometimes in luxury and sometimes just roughing it out. We've traveled with women, older folk, men, long-term groups, looking to reconnect, families, fathers wanting to take their children out trekking, introduce them to the outdoors. We've traveled with children who have been on the spectrum, with sisters who've trekked together. We've also done the really tough stuff, like guiding climbing expeditions. However, across all of this, the one thing that remains constant is our commitment to equity and equality in the outdoors.
Number 6. And this could be an experience in itself. So we are Angmo under Everest, and we have Anusha trying to take a picture of hers, and Vinod is getting his picture taken from Nawang Dai also. And Nawang Dai is right here. That is our tower. 7:15 in the morning, and we are starting out from Tingboche. Oh, sorry, Tengboche. Towards Tingboche. आपका है सबका सबका left. It's 3 o'clock. We are on a final approach to EBC. I mean the exact spot. Technically, we are already on the glacier. That's Anu and Anu. And this is Vinod and Dai. Last few steps to the cross-set stone. And we are here. We are here, girls. Congratulations to you too. Congratulations. Out here. Let's get everyone together.
Thank you, Anu.
Wow. Can we pause over there on the back end, please? Oh my goodness. Guneet and Anusha, this is just so incredible looking at these videos. I am sure that everybody watching this is feeling just unbelievably inspired. You know how, if you have the intent, right? But more than that, the generosity. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, though I want to go on talking about it, I'm just so inspired by looking at it. I'm going to ask y'all to please come and share a little bit of those experiences with us and tell us more about how you are doing what you're doing, which is such an incredible thing.
Yeah. So where do you want us to start, Karen? I mean, there is so much that sometimes we get lost as to, where do we start? And so
I think
give me
let's
one
start from
cue.
the beginning. Why are you doing this? You're doing something so unique. I mean, you could be out there, taking people for treks and minting money, but instead you choose to do this, right? Why are you doing, why have you decided to take up such a very critical and very, very niche segment of what tourism should be for everybody else, right? Yeah.
Right.
So,
So, Karen, we never ever, even when we were doing, so Guneet and me met on course in 2009, and we got along very well. And at that point in time, we never ever thought of probably starting a company or doing this on a commercial basis. I mean, yes, we are a commercial company, which is Bohemian Adventures LLP, but we've done more pro bono work than we've been making money out of it. But it wasn't the thought at all. I had a flourishing journalism career. I was a mainstream journalist, and Guneet was in college, and then she finished her college, and she was into the publishing industry. So, masters in economics, she's a master's in literature. And we never thought, and mountaineering was a passion more for us than we thought that we're going to actually. But then the 2013 disaster, and
I
which
would
gave
like
us,
to pitch in a little bit in the middle.
yeah,
There's a little bit of
yeah,
a story there.
yeah,
So
very
after I
funny.
finished college, I finished masters. I had also been trekking since I was a very small child because I'm from Uttarakhand. And my school had compulsory treks and all of that. So after I finished my masters, I told my parents I want to get into the adventure travel industry, and I applied everywhere. You won't believe I had more experience at that point than a lot of boys who just come out of, their courses. And nobody even sent me a courtesy email saying, sorry, we don't have space right now. Can you get back in touch later? And so eventually I did. I mean, because I had studied literature, I got into publishing, but I kept trying over the years. And that was the point at which we reached 2013 when the disaster happened. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Now, Anu, take over the story. Just a
yeah.
little
And
background that we weren't getting jobs even though we tried
jobs.
to in the
Yeah,
industry.
and I was actually leading a lot of treks in the Sahyadris. I had even led treks in the Himalayas with a friend, again doing pro bono work because I had a full-time journalistic job. But when we thought of applying for jobs in the industry, adventure sport companies, we never got any replies, And then, of course, at that point in time, we didn't think so much that there is this bias, or, why weren't we getting, because I think at that point in time, we parallelly had something that was bringing us our bread and butter, and we continued this as something that we are passionate about. But the 2013 disaster happened, and then we just randomly decided, let's raise funds. And then we got this idea of, Summiting for Hope, which is not an NGO. But what we did over the years is that we work with NGOs and we raise funds through adventure activities. I thought that was a better way to go about it, rather than set up an NGO and then you have so many other issues coming with it. And we said we can't handle all of that. So it's better that so we worked with Gunj in Kashmir during the floods. And then I was there for 4 months in Nepal during the earthquake. And the turning point for what we do now as inclusion, diversity, equity, especially when I'm talking about, including persons with disability in the outdoor space, was in 2016. I was doing research for a BBC show in India. And BBC Media basically is their India outfit. And for them, I was doing research on that TV show, which was about unsung heroes. And there I came across a blind man, and it was, he just asked me one question. He said, I love adventure. I love trekking. Why can't I be in the outdoors? And believe me, until then, that question never crossed our minds, because we were only kind of guiding, people non-disabled. And this is despite me being a chronic asthmatic and several times being told that I had no business being in the mountains and how it could be dangerous for me and for people around me. Not even without asking me, how is it that you reached the stage with chronic asthma? And I'm a juvenile asthmatic. And, but that question kind of set me thinking as to what he's saying is right. I mean, the outdoors is for everyone. So why can't we take him? And that's how the journey started. And what started initially with, slowly and steadily guiding the blind in the outdoors went on to, we decided people with medical conditions. There were a lot of women who came, approached us. I think one of the reasons that Bohemian Adventures is also kind of people are comfortable talking to us, or rather because we've included everyone. I've taken gay couples on a trek with normal individuals, and no question. I mean, the atmosphere is such that nobody is judged, nobody is spoken about. Exactly what you spoke in the first session today. And the whole idea is that we all have our own spaces, and what better than the outdoors, which can just let you be, no questions asked.
Amazing. Yeah. Two things. Sorry, Anusha, I just wanted before I forget, I was just thinking the two things that you mentioned, which really struck me as an entrepreneur. Okay. Number one is that, when we decide to do something, okay, you typically want to do it yourself because you want to have full control. I am amazed that you were very clear from day one that you want to partner with NGOs. Rather, even though you are thinking from a development inclusion perspective, you're still thinking, no, let me focus on my core competency and then partner with NGOs for the other aspects. I think one of the things that we really encourage at the Rise Speak World Summit and in our work is that, we call it the JICA model. You must have all these four people, and you spoke of all four, I think, and maybe Guneet can come in here to talk a little bit about this kind of partnership. Firstly, government, industry, which is you, okay, entrepreneurs, then civil society, which is the NGOs you're working with, and then academia, which is the Mountaineering Institute. They play a very big role. So, how do you work together and bring all the right stakeholders to create the right kind of environment in which everybody flourishes? You may have had a flourishing, obviously business before, but this is also how you flourish depending on whatever else you take up. So I don't know if Guneet wants to maybe come in a little bit and say some of how these kind of examples of collaboration that you all have had in what you all have undertaken so far. Great.
So Guneet, you can talk about to sponsor girls and, get them into the workforce.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, I'll just go back to 2013. After actually it was during the expedition, the fundraising expedition that we did. We sat down, we started having these conversations, and we realized, yeah, if nobody's giving us a job, why do we have to, kind of still keep waiting? There's something we want to do and we have the capability. Let's just do our own thing. And then we also realized that it's not just us, but it's all these other girls. Our batchmates and stuff, and seniors and juniors from these institutes, they were also not getting jobs, these women. So we started in the beginning with the thought that, let's get into the space, do our own thing, and let's try and get the girls out there, the women out there. So we started initially also sponsoring, younger women or people who had done just a basic course, possibly didn't have the money to do their advanced course, get them to do their course and then incorporate them into the company so that they could work as interns and work their way upwards. So it was initially very gender focused, and that is why our session is called Beyond Gender, because that is where we started from. It just so happened that the kind of SOPs we built in the company to look at women-centric journeys and the kind of safety aspects we put in, and we did a lot of research and got like, what are the international standards and everything. It just so happened that those standards apply across the board to everyone. And that is how we were able to make that shift from a very gender-specific outlook. Mind you, we've been taking men, women, children, everybody. It's just that the standards have now become universal. And the way we have adapted ourselves, for us, it's no big deal now to travel with anybody who comes up to us and says, okay, so I am a PWD and these are my cases, whether visible or invisible disability. And can you take us? Of course, we go through extensive background conversations to find out exactly what it is and how we need to adapt. And the wonderful thing that has happened is that a lot of the NGOs that we have partnered with over the years, they may have started out with us, but they are now able to also move into the space on their own. And for us, it doesn't make any difference. As long as we are there with our expertise. And the partnership that you were talking about, it's very clear for us. I started in the beginning by saying that our expertise is mountaineering. Right? That is what we built our business on, but that is our core skill base.
Correct.
If we stick to that, we can build a safe space. We can lend our expertise to institutions, to everybody else. We can now consult because we now have years of guiding persons with disability.
Right.
So that sensitivity, everything that comes along with it, we are happy to pass it on. But we don't have to get into every space. I don't have to go as an instructor. Sometimes we do. And it's something that I will also be doing in the future. Here is a question I need to ask. In the last video, the inclusive trek to Everest Base Camp, we had 2 persons with disability. Now, the gentleman Vinod, his disability was very visible. But the lady, Angmo, I don't know if you guys realized what her disability was.
She was totally blind.
I would love to open this. No. I was going to open it up to chat.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, she's 100% blind. And that video you saw of her walking, she was walking on her own. I mean, there were certain sections where she had...
If Ankush could just go back.
Ankush, take me off stream, okay? And please play the video. And maybe Anusha and Guneet, after you'll play that video, if you can just explain a little bit more about what you'll do in the whole diversity segment and what you'll, and your upcoming also. I mean, so 2 key things I would definitely want all our viewers to see, not just only who are here, but even those who will watch it on demand later on the platform.
Absolutely.
So 2 critical things, one is about the whole inclusivity and then of course the new one that is going to come out. Yeah. So over to you all. And yes, I look forward to learning more about all your work. So inspired. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for
and of course, my dream is to join you on one of your treks very soon.
Sure, absolutely.
So someone who cannot see can climb, and look at us, right? I mean, really it puts us to shame completely. So hopefully very soon I should also make that trip with you.
Yeah. Do come. We have for everyone, we have something, interesting that, you don't have to get scared.
Yeah, in fact,
That
Guneet just
I
mentioned
can't do it.
children. Guneet just mentioned even children you'll have taken, right? Wow, amazing, amazing.
My youngest child that I have taken with me on a trek in the Sahyadri was 2 years old, and believe me, she walked. She really walked all the way, and she made everyone else walk. I mean,
Amazing.
for the longest time, we thought we were the youngest who started, at the age of 6 and 7. But we've like taken kids even younger than them, and the 2-year-old was amazing. So yeah,
Amazing.
Oh no, I
and
started at 2
and the
also.
oldest, okay,
Really?
and the
Wow.
I think the oldest we've taken was 80 years, Guneet,
86.
or 70, 86.
86.
Yeah,
86.
the
My,
oldest.
oh my
I
goodness,
mean,
this is so much.
it was a multi-day trek. Let me be honest. I don't want the wrong impression going out there. It wasn't
Yeah.
a multi-day trek. They were a family, and they had a grandkid, grandparents, everybody, and so we have to look at what the dynamic is, and then
Yeah.
work around it. So for a person
So
who's
most,
86, yeah, it's like
yeah,
day treks. You go during the day, you trek, and as a family unit, as much as they can do, and then they come back and they're not sleeping in tents. They're then
yeah,
sleeping in a nice, comfortable bed in a hotel so they can recoup. And
That's
then
a,
they have the option of,
yeah,
if they get
that's
tired,
like family.
of
If you're
opting
going to,
out one day. Yeah.
yeah,
I think the
yeah,
whole
yeah,
idea of treks as a family is amazing, and I
yeah,
think we should really encourage. I don't think people really encourage family treks. I think that's another speciality I think that y'all are doing. So I think so much of
yeah.
really unique ways of encouraging more and more people to get outdoors, and through that your messaging to obviously be inclusive, to increase equity for all the people who are vulnerable, and then finally including them in mainstream. So I tell you,
Yeah.
kudos, really, really so proud and so pleased to have
Thank
you all
you.
with us.
Because, when we first started also, the whole premise was that we want to introduce everyone who feels that, they can't be in the outdoors.
Right.
I mean, and that is the first thought that people have in their mind. Oh, I don't think I can do, I am not fit, dar lag raha hai, I have fear of heights, I have vertigo. I mean, the excuses are galore. And, it's only when you step out there and then you realize that, oh my God, this place is beautiful. It just lets me be. And we've got the expertise to take you there. The whole
Right.
idea is to convince people and tell them that no, you can,
Yeah.
and,
Wow.
and probably also why, because the largest section of this industry have always stepped back and not got in touch and said, if somebody said I'm an asthmatic, or somebody said, I have this problem, or somebody says, oh, I'm a woman in my 60s and can you take me on a trek? The first thing that the guy will think is that, oh, what's my group dynamics? Everybody is young. How is she going to fit in? And I will not take her. So we'll not get back only to. So
I think
that is
that's
something.
between a business mindset and an inclusion mindset, right? What
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
thinking first? Is it going to be
No,
the people first?
I mean, we are
First.
living examples. Yeah, we are living
yeah, we
examples that
examples.
it can work together. There is no need to separate the business aspect from the inclusion. It just depends on your outlook and whether you're willing to put in that little bit of extra work in the beginning to get trained. That's about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah.
great. Awesome.
Yeah, so now we try to train guides because we work with a lot of
Yeah.
freelance guides. So we slowly and steadily kind of not make it very on the face, but on the job kind of a training, Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, if you
let's,
could just play that little video that
yeah.
towards
The last bit, yeah.
Yeah. So just take me off the stream so you can show the video. And of course, as I said, I encourage you all to continue the conversation and really help our viewers understand more
we'd
about
like Yeah,
Thank
I'd
you
like
very
viewers
much.
to ask us
Thank
questions as well. That'd be good.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will ask, I'm sure our viewers will have a lot of questions. So please put your questions and thoughts in the chat, and I'm sure Anusha
Yes.
and Guneet will take it and take it ahead. Thank you once
Yes,
again.
yes.
All the very best to you. Yeah. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Yeah. So while they're setting up,
Yeah.
Anusha, my question to you is, what was your first trek with a person with a disability like? Like, what were your apprehensions before you went into it, and how that perspective changed once you had done the trip?
Yeah, so my first trip was in Pune. It was actually this organization which actually works with PWDs was organizing a camping trip, and they asked me to volunteer because the next morning was a little hike on the hill to watch the sunrise. And so I said okay, and I also thought that at that point in time didn't know who's training. So the best thing to get into the space was to just be there and learn on job kind of a thing, or while you're volunteering. And it was amazing to see how they were pitching their tent. They were being told how to pitch their tent, and these are all guys who were totally blind, most of them, and they were being given instructions. So I knew one thing, that they need clear instructions. But my initial apprehension was that I had never worked with or studied with anybody who was visually impaired or blind. So, the conversation that one will have with them, there was a little apprehension. How do I address? How do I say? How do I shake hands? Or what are the little things that one needs to learn? So I learned on job that you don't, like, when you're meeting a blind person, you actually say hi. I mean, you click and you say hi, so you're not kind of and then the person puts his hand forward. So there are little nuances that I learned. And so communicating was my initial apprehension, because I thought I can communicate very well, but then how do I communicate with a blind? And it was a two-way process, which we've kind of brought in now, because it has to work that way. So the blind actually taught me a lot, what they want to know, how I should be asking them a question. And then they would tell me, okay, now you can do this. So that is how I learned, and then that is how now I'm kind of practicing and moving forward, training everyone else as to training the other guys. So that was my initial apprehension as to how do I communicate with them. And they also have an apprehension as to how do we kind of talk back with a person who is not blind, is non-disabled. So, and then slowly and steadily it was wonderful. I mean, they actually tell you where they want you to hold. So most blind people that I have guided on the trips in the outdoors, they prefer that they hold my elbow. So when the first time I understood that they will hold, when the person said, I'll hold your elbow, I wanted to understand why elbow, because generally as we see it in ads or we see it on movies, you find people dragging the blind and going. So then I realized elbow is because if I'm moving right, they know I'm moving right. If I'm moving left, they know
Right,
I'm moving left. And that is how they
right,
kind of
right,
judge for themselves. Yeah. Yeah, Ankush, you could play
right.
the video now.
Yeah, uh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And then I can share what was my how I kind of uh, went a little overcautious with Angmo on EBC last year. I mean, it
So
was,
that's
I had to,
we'll come back to
I
it. Yeah.
had to relearn a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to give you a little bit of a background, and this is where we were coming from, that each person's abilities are different. And our job as guides, and this is what people forget, that a guide's job in the mountain is not just to show you the way. We have a lot of other skills, and one of our skills is to understand what each person's ability and limits are and how we adapt ourselves, not them adapting to us and our abilities, how we adapt to their abilities to see how far we can push them, or how much handholding they will need to be able to complete the trek or whatever whichever trip they're on successfully. Now, what had happened prior to Everest Base Camp is that all the persons with disability we had trekked with were not mountain folk and they were not trained. Angmo came to us. She's a Himachali lady, and she's also done her basic mountaineering course. And she's done 3 climbs prior to this. And I don't mean treks, I do mean climbs. So
let's watch the
with
video.
her, yeah. So I'm just going to talk over it. I've asked them to mute it.
Okay.
Yes, you can play it. I can give a little bit of commentary on this as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So this was a trip Anusha led in Anu. It was 2017, right?
No,
To Kilimanjaro.
2018.
2018. All right,
It was
2018.
India's first
And
inclusive.
yeah, it was India's first inclusive trek climb actually to Kilimanjaro, which is the highest mountain in Africa. So this had 3 blind persons and how many? Anu?
10 non-disabled.
10 non-disabled persons. So and
Can
this
you
was
pause? Yeah. Right. This is a Parkinson's patient who had shown interest to actually go to Everest Base Camp. So we started initially very small with him. I took him on a trek to when he came, and he's from UK. When he came down to India, he wanted to do something. So I took him on a short trek to Sayadris. First Binog, yes. Binog in
First
Mussoorie.
Binog in Mussoorie, because we wanted to check how he his movements react and how his body reacts to those movements in uneven terrain as well as a little bit of altitude. And that is where the training started once. Yeah. And the whole process
of
the whole
getting
process
him
from
on board. Yeah.
The whole process from when.
Yeah, go on.
Right. So the whole process, the first time we started with him to the time he was able to go to Everest Base Camp was a journey of about 2 years. I'm reiterating again
we had to research.
that yes, we had to research about the disease as well. Because before we got to know the gentleman, our idea of the actual medical background of what is involved in Parkinson's was very little. So we had to do our own research as well as see the physical aspects of it. Yeah, go on.
So then after that, Binog in Mussoorie, he did a Himalayan trek with us first to understand how his body reacts to high altitude. This was to Valley of Flowers and Hemkund Sahib. And then he did it successfully, and for us also it brought in a lot of confidence that we can take Parkinson's patient if they have the will to kind of walk in the outdoors. And then he came back to India, and he went back to the UK, and he said, now I want to do Everest Base Camp. For this, we really kind of did a lot of research to understand, like at 18,000 feet, what kind of issues can one have, acclimatization, various other aspects that we needed to look at. And finally, we said, yes, we'll go on this. And he actually did this trek for a Parkinson's Institute, which was also doing research. And they had actually sent him with a chip in his watch to check his movements and check his mobility issues and how he's reacting in the high altitude. And then when they went back and they analyzed the data that had been captured over the period of 16 days that he trekked in the Everest Base Camp, his medication actually reduced after that. So whatever medications that he was taking, and they found that the outdoors really helped in a great deal in minimizing a lot of issues like mood swings, um, hallucinations that actually comes with Parkinson's. I'd like you to play the video, Ankush, so that they know.
Actually, wait, just a second. After the video, I'll ask you to pause. I'm just going to answer a question that's come in the chat after the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You can pause it here. Thank you. Yeah, Ankush, can we pause it for a moment? Yeah, so the question from chat is, do we have options for trekking, and do they go from simple to difficult? Right. So largely treks are sort of put into three categories. Only the treks are into three categories. It's easy, medium, and difficult or extreme. Extreme would be even beyond difficult. So that is a category I won't go into. So most people, irrespective of abilities, can do the easy and medium ones. Where we come in and how we gauge which one you'll be able to go for will be parameters based on your current physical fitness, your overall physical fitness. What are the sort of, your nutrition in your day-to-day life, whether we need to build on that or not before you go on your trek, whether or not you've been to high altitude before. For instance, if you're a person who has never trekked in their lives, hasn't even, or forget trekking, hasn't even traveled to high altitude before by road or by flight, there are some people who have visited Leh and the greater Ladakh region. They might not have trekked, but visited it. So at least we have an idea of what their bodies have reacted, gone through, and how their bodies have reacted to the high altitude. Now, supposing you're an absolute couch potato, let's start from there. So then you have no physical activity as such right now. You've never been to high altitude before. Then you need to start on some sort of a physical regime, and it's not very difficult. You just need to take out initially about a half hour a day. That's all it takes. And we start building on that. And at no point are you like in the gym for like hours at end doing all kinds of stuff. At the greatest, you'll still be only about an hour a day in the gym. And you can start from, then we'll take you only on the easiest one. When we have persons with disabilities, we'll always take them on an easy one first. Because neither they nor we know each other. We have to build the trust, and we also have to see how their bodies are reacting in different terrains. It's not just to the altitude. That is, the body's reaction to altitude is absolutely the same for all persons, whether they are non-disabled persons or persons with disability. That absolutely is not a factor. Where we pay a little bit special attention is that if people have not a disability, but a pre-existing disease that affects the lungs, that's a different sort of sphere. But other than that, as far as the physical aspects of high altitude go, it's the same for everybody. So what we need to gauge is how their movements and the trust building is very important. So for that, we'll take them on an easy trek before, right? For a person with disability who is super fit, right? Who've had a regular fitness regime, and similarly for beginners or first-time trekkers who have a strong fitness regime from before, they can, as their first trek, attempt a medium trek,
Yeah.
a moderate trek, right? So again, you see the equality in the physical abilities. It's not that we will always take a non-disabled person only on an easy trek. If they have certain physical criteria that they meet and they've been to high altitude before, not necessarily on a trek, but just visited high altitude. And similarly, if a person with disability also has a strong fitness regime and has been to high altitude before, they're on the same page. They can then
Yeah.
attempt the same trek. However,
Yeah.
yes, if either category of person is a couch potato, no way. Then they have to start at the beginner level. And even in the beginner level, like I was talking about the day treks. So if you have mixed groups and families, with very small children, or older persons like their grandparents and things, and we want to introduce them, but also keep it a little light. So there is an introduction to the outdoors. So then what we do is we go on these day treks where every day you go on a new trek, but in the evening you can come back and instead of staying in a tent, stay in a nice rest house or a guest house or a resort, whatever is available in the nearby place, so that everybody gets an exposure and an introduction. So the level is same. It will depend on a lot of other criteria. Like I was saying, what your physical abilities are prior to you going on your trek. Do you follow a fitness regime? Have you been keeping up with your nutrition? Have you been to high altitude before? What is the nature of any pre-existing disease that you have or the nature of your disability? All of those things combined together. And that is where I was coming to. So for this particular video that you're seeing, this inclusive trek to the space camp, we had two very different categories of persons who were persons with disability. Yeah, so we had Vinod, who is a unilateral below the knee amputee, and he had never trekked before. But he is a biker and he has over the last 15 years cycled as well as motorcycled every year in high altitude.
Yeah.
So his idea and his body's reactions to high altitude is something that we were very well aware of. However, he had never trekked before. So we worked on his physical fitness only on that aspect. Angmo, on the other hand, is a lady from the mountainous region of Himachal, Kinnaur district, very close to the Spiti Valley. And she's also done her mountaineering course. She's also been on a lot of climbs before. So her abilities and Vinod's abilities were vastly different and it had nothing to do with the kind of disability they had. Right. So if we can play the video now. Most of the places, Angmo was walking, yeah,
on her own.
Most of the places she walked on her own. There were areas where it was too narrow or when we had a lot of crowd. Because what happens is that people are sometimes not aware of their surroundings and then are not just generally aware and they don't realize that she's blind. And so if she's walking a certain way, they may bump into her and that makes it a dangerous situation. Here you can see she's completely walking on her own. I'm making the video. She's leading and then there is Vinod and then Anusha is sweeping at the back. Yeah. And again, at this point in the video, I did say left because she was going a lot to the right, which is the edge. So that's how we would guide her to actually tell her which way to go. Other than that, with her cane and her experience in the mountains, she is able to walk on her own unguided. And right, so this was the point we were trying to make because it's for persons like us who are visual, a visual aspect makes us understand it a lot better rather than just the explanation. So this is how it was with the Angmo. Okay, Ankush, we can remove the video, like pause it and then remove it. And this is where Anu comes in with her experience and what happened to her with previous guiding and guiding Angmo. Right.
Yeah. So I got into guide. I mean, so between Guneet and me, we took turns to guide Angmo. Our Nepalese guide, when I first asked him, guide Angmo, and he said, no, I can't. I don't think I can, and all. So I said, I left it at that, and I said, he will eventually, because we were going to be there for with each other for 16 days. I said, automatically, at some point in time, he will take on. So with Angmo, what happened is that I knew she is experienced. I knew she is into mountaineering, but I had never trekked with her before, right? And nor had gone on an expedition. I was to go with her, but couldn't make it on that expedition with her. So initially, my style of guiding was very similar to how I've guided other blind people who've never been in the outdoors before or were not as accomplished in mountaineering as Angmo. So I realized, like, after like the first day's walk, I realized there have been some gaps. So then I sat down with Angmo and I asked her, I said, is there an issue with me walking with you, or am I not guiding you right? And so this is on the third day, I think I asked her, because slowly at some point Guneet would take over. And I would see a lot of comfort between Guneet and Angmo, and it was very smooth. So then I sat down on the third day and I asked Angmo, I said, where am I going wrong? Is there something that I need to work on with you as your guide? So she said, you are a little overcautious with me, which you don't need to be. And all you need to do is give me very clear verbal instructions and I can do it myself. So it took me a little while to accept the fact that, she can walk on her own with a stick and just the guidance. I didn't need to tell her at every step, ki Angmo yahan nahi, Angmo there's a stone here, or Angmo there's a step here. She could figure that out. So that was my little apprehension, or rather I should say my overcautious attitude on guiding that came through, and then learning from her. So I had to relearn a lot on the last EBC. Now I'm pretty confident that how to kind of manage Angmo on a climb next.
And I had the absolute reverse experience.
Yeah, because Guneet had never been. Yeah.
No, I'd been on only one small trek in the Sahyadri with visually impaired and blind persons, but not in the Himalaya. And then the best part is that after I went with Angmo and her capabilities, 5 days after I came back from Everest Base Camp, I went on another trek where we had another blind lady from Raipur. And she was a beginner. So I went from an expert to a beginner. So I had the absolute reversal.
Yeah.
Because she was more apprehensive in her own abilities. But then it took only about a day, like the first day, and then we got into the rhythm as well. But yeah, so it was really fun. Even the Dayara trek, and there the dynamic was a little different because again, like all persons, I am not generalizing here about a person with disability will go through this experience or able-bodied people will go through this experience, because everybody goes through the same experience. They are all going through the same challenges, the same level of physical fatigue, the same level of breathlessness, the same level of how altitude is affecting them. The difference comes only in your prior experience in the outdoors. Because sometimes the nature and outdoors in itself, if you've never been there, and I have known people to get panic attacks just by looking at the high mountains, it can overwhelm you. And this happens across the board. So the whole point of the whole thing is to see who fits where. It's not the ability. It's your previous experience. And gauging whether or not that previous experience that you're talking about, you may think it's been a lot. However, according to our understanding of how things happen, it may be that you only fit into a lower trek, or you may think that you can only do a lower trek. But we feel that no, you are capable of now stepping it up and trying on more tough treks. Yeah. I would love to get any other questions that anybody has on, yeah.
Yeah, is there any other questions that people might have? Or Guneet, you could go forward with what we're coming up next in August and April, and then in August, of course. And
Yeah,
also
so,
talk about the current inquiries that we have from wheelchair bound.
what about the costs? So,
Depends on which trek.
yeah, so costs as per the treks are dependent on how long the trek is, the number of days, which area it is on, and but if you're specifically asking whether the costs are different for persons with disability and non-disabled persons, then no. Our treks are priced the same because, like I said, the kind of SOPs we have in place works across the board for everybody. For instance, if we had a family with like small children and older folk, so then of course I would like have an extra guide from my side because the group dynamic is different, right? And if I had a person with disability on the trek, then again I would have an extra guide, depending on their disability. For instance, the Dayara trek we went on, there were our clients were 2 ladies, and like I said, one was a blind lady, and just me with them was more than enough. But for a trek like Everest Base Camp, where we had 2 persons with disability, and one of them was like a first time. Yeah, 2 different kinds of disabilities, and one of them had never trekked before. There, as a precaution, we did have 2 guides because Anusha and I were both there. But other than that, no.
We had a Nepalese guide as well.
But that Nepalese guide is there irrespective.
Yeah.
Even if we didn't have persons with disability, or supposing we had 2 persons with disability who were really good with the outdoors and had experience, and like any other non-disabled person, the Nepalese guide would always be there because that's a backup for your logistics, right? So that is not the case. So the only time there is a price difference is if the person with disability has a disability where extra backup is needed.
Required.
Physical backup is needed. Like Anusha has been talking about, for our coming treks, we have inquiries from persons who are wheelchair bound. Whatever the nature of their disability makes them wheelchair bound. So when that is the case, a lot of so to go on a trek, for a lot of manpower is required. So in that case, that trek will be more expensive, and this is unfortunate because we don't have infrastructure in this country or on a lot of trails that this is the case. And with a lot of people who are wheelchair bound or have mobility issues, the problem is also that neither they nor their families and caretakers have ever been introduced to the outdoors, so nobody has experience. Here, there is a little bit of a difference where you see people who live abroad and countries that have really good infrastructure in the outdoors. The whole family and caretakers, everybody goes out together, so they also have experience. So it's not the guides alone who are doing everything. So in this case, the costs really increase because we do need extra people for that particular individual. Yeah. It wouldn't be fair in that case to translate that cost to everybody else. Yes. But in these specific cases, the cost for the persons with disability would increase because of the extra manpower that would be needed.
Yeah. Also, in case of EBC, we've had many a times where people have come and said that they want it very luxurious. Rather, they don't want to walk back 3 days back to Lukla. So, helicopter, they choose to, kind of fly back in a helicopter. So those will have added costs and all that. But more broadly, our itinerary costs are the same for everyone across the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
then gets
So
customized based on what you want and what you don't want, and accordingly one can work around that.
yeah, I mean the cost can increase or decrease that way depending on exactly what you want on that trek. But our standard
Yeah.
itinerary, I was to put out, like for instance, whatever we are going to do next, and our calendar is ready. We are doing Everest Base Camp in April, and we are doing out of. I'm just mentioning the big ones, Kilimanjaro in August, and the Kilimanjaro one is already an inclusive climb because we have Angmo who's going for sure, and then we have a gentleman who's wheelchair bound. So if we can give his example, we need 4 extra people just because of the kind of physical strain it takes to push a wheelchair up and the stability issues that do arise due to the terrain. So at any given moment, you need 2 people uh, from a safety point of view to be handling the wheelchair. It can't be done by just one. And the sheer physical
Also,
strain.
you'll need a chest harness.
So for
Yeah,
that,
you'll
we
need
have.
a chest harness. Yeah.
So for that, we will need 4 extra persons. That is where the cost goes up. And this is irrespective,
No,
whether there was infrastructure or not. On some trails, it's just physically impossible to push that much for one person for that many number of days. Because these treks and climbs are long. EBC takes 16 days, and the Kilimanjaro climb we are going for is going to be 9 days as well. So that is where the cost aspect becomes a little bit skewed. But for instance, an Angmo going who does not have mobility issues, the cost for her as well as the cost for all other non-disabled persons will be identical. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so you were asking me to explain. I think that broadly covers the 2 major projects for this year. We will also be going to EBC, Everest Base Camp, that is again in September. So we have Base Camp twice, Kilimanjaro in August. And we have, so these are the only ones which are outside of India. And the rest, our calendar for the year, of course, is in India, is ready. And all our treks, as far as we are concerned, are inclusive. Because once our calendar goes out, like these are the treks we are doing, if there is a person with disability who contacts us and says, I want to try this one, we won't say no because they're a person with disability. We may advise them based on our conversation with them whether that trek is suitable for them or not, and suggest an alternative in case that one is either too tough, or we know for a fact that the terrain for their particular ability may not be suitable at this particular moment. Then we'll suggest an alternative. But as far as we are concerned, any trek we put out is an inclusive trek because anybody can join. Yeah.
Also, we are doing the simple ones like the Uttarkashi day treks and couple of other treks. So you could look up our website, which is bohemianadventures.com, to know more about us as well. And one other thing I wanted to mention here is that while we have been taking people with disabilities into the outdoors. Last year, we also started taking children on the spectrum and adults on the spectrum or with any kind of neurodivergent disability into the outdoors as well. And we've seen marked improvement, at least with the kids, I've seen marked improvement. Their restlessness or their repetitive behaviors, or they rather calming down being in the outdoors. So that's another area that we've just about started. We work with mental health therapists so that we also understand how to handle kids or adults on the spectrum or with any kind of other, non-visible, invisible disability. So that is something also that we look at because our idea of the outdoors is that outdoors don't discriminate. It's only we it's in our minds, especially the non-disabled, who think who can and who cannot be out there. The outdoors is welcoming for everyone, and we've seen the healing nature, healing aspect of nature on individuals. It really helps. So we're working towards building a more inclusive outdoor space. Uh, is there any other questions? We are more than happy to take them.
In fact, what you mentioned, Anu, about the children on the spectrum and having a therapist on, this is another part where people across industries can join hands. And when we were talking about collaboration between us, NGOs, because sometimes what happens is it's just the reality of life that persons with disability sometimes cannot afford to go on treks, right? Because it's just too expensive for them overall, because of what ability and disability they have, what kind of jobs they're in, whether or not that space is open to them. Also, that's just the reality of life, of whether or not you can afford it. And that is where we partner with NGOs, because they can help raise funds. I mean, funds, if they are able to go and are willing to go, then funds should not be something that stops them. We can't raise the funds on our own because, again, there are lots of complications with us being a company, this, that, and the other. And the transparency will only come, again, because if there is a person who is already in the space, an NGO is already in this space, and they can help raise funds for these individuals who want to go on treks where they can't afford it on their own. The other space, the collaboration is with the therapists, and this is coming from our programs that we started in the Sahyadris, where we started it right now, because we want to understand also how everything works and what our behavior and outlook should be towards the children. So this is something that we always have a therapist, because we are not psychologists, psychiatrists, or therapists. And everybody has their expertise, and unless depending on what kind of group it is, the group dynamic, unless we guys join hands and come together, there's no way that we would be able to manage it on our own, right? Unless there is somebody with guidance. Either there is a caretaker who already understands the child or the children who are coming, because an extra level of safety is involved when you're talking about young children, right? So yeah.
So talking about costs and guiding persons with disability, more often than not, the challenge has never been for persons with disability getting the opportunity. They've been getting opportunities to go out there and be part of large expeditions or large treks, but the challenge for them has always been the cost, because they're in this catch-22 situation. You don't have jobs for them which kind of literally pays them well, and while even with that kind of background, they still try and pursue some kind of outdoor sport or an activity. But when it comes to participating in large expeditions or in large treks, they always find it difficult because of the costs and being able to raise. So last year when we went to EBC, we actually raised funds for both ANGMO and part funds. They did pay part from their pocket, because I also believe that everything should not be free. There is something that you need to kind of do it yourself, so that sense of
I did this,
accomplishment is there, that I did this and I've also kind of contributed to this. We did raise funds for them through a crowdsourcing platform. And so every time for us, when we want to take PWDs, unless of course he or she's from an affluent family and wants to go, if we always have to look at an alternative as to how do we kind of make them part of this and can we kind of raise funds. So we've done that in the past for the inclusive climb, first inclusive climb to Kilimanjaro. Also, I raised funds. So all these years we've been raising funds for them as well, and hoping that someday we will get some kind of CSR, or we will get sponsors. Getting sponsors for persons with disability has also been a challenge that I have faced, because there is always this question about uh, why them, isn't it risky? Well, even taking a non-disabled is risky for us when we are out in the outdoors. So these are certain aspects, and our goal is always to try and see how to make it easy and how to be inclusive and diverse, and take a diverse group of people into the outdoors, introduce them to the vast expanse of nature.
Yeah. I would also like to say that
So,
as far
is
as
there
we are
anything?
concerned, inclusion. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was just saying, as far as we guys are
No, go
concerned,
ahead.
inclusion for us isn't just trekking with persons with disability. Given our background, and that's why I mentioned it in the beginning, anybody who wants to trek, and that is why I say each trek is inclusive, because exclusion happens on many levels, and this is just something that is part of society, that like, let's say you have women over the age of 50, right? Let's not even go over 60. They've reached that age where they are, maybe the kids have gone out to college and all that, and they are suddenly like in this space where they're like, we can do stuff, and they're confident in themselves, but other people will be like, oh no, how will you go, madam, you have never trekked before. Oh no, madam, maybe you have like a knee injury or whatever. So they are also being excluded on some level. So there is exclusion on like a gender level. There is exclusion and discrimination based on age. Like more than the number of persons with disability we have trekked with over the years, because obviously that space is also small. A large number of our client base are actually older folk, because you will not believe. I mean, it is unimaginable the number of older folk who get rejected from trekking companies, and I don't understand why. They just think that because you're older, you are now incapable, that maybe after you've retired, you should just sit at home. And that is not the case. I mean, it's such an insane thought. So inclusion here is everybody, literally. This is a space that is open to all, naturally open to all, because nature is open to all. Our job is just to facilitate it for you, right? In the safest way possible for us. Do we say that things don't go wrong? Like sometimes people fall, somebody might twist their foot. Of course, it happens. Sometimes there are things that are even greater, like we've been stuck in really, really bad weather conditions and all of that. But then that is where the job of the guide to take over and their expertise comes in. But it is not for us to say, sitting at home, that, oh no, because you're an older woman or an older person, older man, oh no, sexual orientation, I don't understand it, I don't know how I'm going to address you, that you can't come. Oh no, you have diabetes. Oh no, do you take insulin injections? Oh no. This whole mindset of, just because you don't have confidence
Who
in
can and who can't.
your ability as a guide, right? That you are actually refusing other people. It's not because of their ability. It's because of your ability. Because you don't have confidence in your own guiding, right? So, yeah. I think that's it.
So two other
from
things
me.
that
Yeah.
Guneet, there are two other things that I'd like to iterate about the way Bohemian Adventures operate, and that is,
Yeah.
uh, um, one is, of course, adventure is free. Everybody is free to, kind of go on their own. Uh, um, but where we come into play is that for us, safety is priority and it's paramount, and we don't compromise on safety. So at times, the same trek that you do might cost a wee bit more than what you might go with another popular company probably. But the reason being is that we don't compromise on safety. Secondly, we don't herd people to the mountains, so we have smaller groups. We don't play the volume game in the outdoors. We have smaller groups. A minimum of 8 and a maximum of 10 is our group size for any trek in the Himalayas or even in the Sahyadris. I don't take 25, 30 people into the hills. So, safety is increasingly becoming so important, and we kind of do a thorough meeting with all the people who are interested in going on a trek with us, and we explain the entire SOP. How do we go about it? Because today, as you must be reading every day in the newspaper about some adventure accident that is happening. Recently in Himachal, in Goa, there has been paragliding accidents.
Oh no. Yeah, so just carrying on from what Anusha was saying, the safety standards is what really sets us apart. And also, this is something that people don't pay attention to in India, but your guides need a lot of training over the years. And just like any other field, there are developments that happen. So just doing your basic mountaineering courses and stuff doesn't really actually qualify you to be a guide. In fact, a lot of countries abroad, that is just the point to get you into a program where you learn to be a guide afterwards. So we have spent over the years a lot of time and energy into training ourselves to be at that standard. Of course, some of it had to do with our own thing that we really want to be as good as we can be in our profession. The other was also guessing because we get asked a lot of questions because we are women, and people doubt us sometimes that are you as good a guide, and on very funny things have happened to us on treks where people have asked if they can carry our bags, and despite the it's just funny, right? In the beginning of the trek, they'll see that their bag is really small and our bags are like really big, and then they'll be like, oh no, can we carry it for you? They're like, the place for chivalry is probably in the evening when you can empty a chair for me, but not right now, and no, you can't have my bag. But the best part is that by the end of the day, when you're getting closer to finishing the trek and everybody's super tired, and that is the time when I turn around and ask them, I said, now do you want to carry my bag? It's like, so that's on a lighter note, yeah. But these things do happen. One can't really say that the biases aren't there. They are. But yeah, we've trained a lot, and like I was saying, if you just look at international standards, and if you look at the guiding standards in Nepal, the kind of training that they need to go through over the years, and then there are certain levels of guiding certificates that they get, which you'll only get like a black level after you've been guiding for like 10 years and you have these kind of experiences. In India, we don't have any such thing. So that is something that we have consciously over the years really worked on. And so when people do turn around and ask us, oh my God, why are you so much more expensive than everybody else? This is why. In the UK, for instance, one guide is only allowed to trek with 2 clients. And there is no way that they can break it, because then their guiding certificates will be taken away. We follow a 3:1 client to guide ratio, and this, of course, the group dynamic is very varied. Very varied, meaning that, like very young children who may need their own person to look after them. And because that also, again, families have also come for a vacation. So sometimes you just need time away from the children. And in today's day, it's also there to keep the children away from the parents, so that the parents are not hovering all the time, and give the children space to really kind of open up and try their hands at what they can do, because we'll give the kids a lot more freedom to try out stuff that sometimes when the parents are looking, they'll be like, oh no, this is dangerous, but it's controlled. So yeah, that is there. I think we've lost Anusha due to technical difficulties. But to the greatest degree, I think we've kind of already discussed most of what we do. So we are an adventure travel company that is open to traveling with all. If it is in within our capabilities to trek with you, we will do our level best to educate ourselves if we are not aware of the kind of medical issues that you may have, so that we can trek with you. Sometimes it does happen that we may need to take some time, and it takes a few years before we are able to come up to that level, of safety. For instance, with the gentleman with Parkinson's. So slowly, steadily building on his abilities and our abilities to be able to reach a stage where he was able to trek to Everest Base Camp. But yes, unfortunately, and I really cannot lie about this, some places in the country are inaccessible because we don't have the infrastructure. And even with everything that we have learned over the years, we are unable to provide that level of safety where we can guarantee that if we take somebody, that we can bring them back as well. So unfortunately, certain areas are still cut off. But yeah, other than that, as far as we are concerned, people of all abilities are welcome in the outdoors, and we try to
So
make your trip
sorry.
as happy as possible. Oh, welcome back. I was just
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
yeah. So I was just kind of wrapping up, saying that. So I'll just quickly fill you in that people of all abilities are welcome. However, the reality of life, I was saying, is that there are some spaces that are still inaccessible because we don't have infrastructure in the country, and it's not. We cannot, despite how much we would want to, provide safety for certain people in certain areas. But as far as possible for us, whether we need extra training, whether we have to put in that investment from our side, we go ahead and do it, and try to make all treks, all areas as accessible for everyone as possible,
Everyone.
irrespective of abilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there any other questions that you might want us to? Is there something that you might want to know more? Can we?
I think. Thank you so much. Thank you for your questions. It really spurred us on to, talk about different dynamics of things. And these are the kind of questions, generally, I'm just so happy talking here, because normally people don't ask us. Like they'll just be like, oh, trekking hai, sabhi trekking karte hain. But it's really happy to be able to, makes me really happy to be able to talk about the technical stuff, right? Like there are people who are interested in listening to the technical aspects of what go into and make like a trek possible. Like, so yeah, thank you so much for asking all of these questions, and thank you so much
share
for
our details. You could go up to www.bohemianadventures.com, and in the chat I'll also put our numbers. Guneet, you could type yours and I'll. So we are also
it's on the
available
website.
on
Our numbers are on the website and they connect directly to us. And we are also on Instagram, and again, it's all on the website and it connects like directly back to us. And yeah. I mean, just
And
for the
our
future, in
email-
case it's not there in the chat, this is for people who will watch later. Anusha, everything is there on the website because there are very few people here and people will mostly be watching it later. So both all our numbers, our email IDs, our socials that link directly to us are there in on our website. Yeah. So if you just go to www.bohemian, Bohemian, adventures with an s.com, it'll just link back to us. So that's the way to get in touch with us. We don't have any booking tabs on our website because we like to have conversations with people before we go on treks. Yeah. So definitely you cannot just click a button and trek with us. We would really appreciate it. Be old school, pick up a phone, call us, and let's have a chat before we go anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
So that's all from me. And it's been wonderful sharing our experience. And honestly, this has just been a great experience.
Right.
Thank you.
And do get in touch with us for our upcoming treks, and we'll be very happy to answer all your queries and get you on board along with us.